the JT Miller contract. Man, this guy's name being out there in trades and how he wasn't going to sign, and then he ends up signing. What do you make of the contract and the entire negotiation? And what do you think this means for Bo Horvat?
This one really caught me off guard. I think it caught a lot of people off guard because I think when you look at where they were all summer, like they didn't appear to be in the same ballpark at all. And it's amazing sort of how it came together, especially for JT Miller. I think he didn't want to have this hanging over his head heading into the season. And, I don't know, maybe sometimes things change. I think it was announced either the day of or the day after his first kid was born. And so maybe this is one of those things like, hey, I've got something like this that's on the table for me, something that sets me up for life, even though he's probably already pretty well arranged with career earnings approaching $30 million to sign for 56 more. That's a pretty big deal. And so for the Canucks fans, I thought the reaction, Jason, was interesting because they were sort of grumbling about 7 years and how this is too long. And I think, to be fair, 7 years probably made the Canucks and their front office a little bit uneasy. But at the same time, I think the cap hit is really manageable given his production level for these last number of years. I mean, you look at the time since he's been in Vancouver, he's well north of a point per game player, and there's only so many of those in the league. Like, I know the Canucks are on this path to being competitive. They're probably knocking on the door of the playoffs this year. I have a hard time believing they can get to where they want to get to without JT Miller. And I think ultimately that's the calculus that they made at the end of the day.
100%, right? You have to worry about the near future. And when you look at his production just in Vancouver, he's been their most productive player by a significant margin, right? Yes. Like in the last 2 years, he has 145 points. Pettersson has 89. Now, Pettersson has played about 28 fewer games in that time. But, even if he plays all those games, he's not on the same point per game pace at all to Miller. And, you look when JT Miller's contract kicks in next year, the Holtby and Virtanen buyouts come off the books. And so his raise essentially will come from that free money from those buyouts. So that there's really not a huge jump. Obviously, his contract goes up. To me, though, I look at a guy like Bo Horvat. And so, if Miller's making what he's making and he's their highest paid guy, it's really hard to think, unless Bo Horvat has like a massive season this year, that he can command more and possibly even less.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's probably slightly more. Like he's probably, no, you mean more than Miller?
Yeah, like I don't
see. Oh,
no,
he's less than Miller. He's way less than Miller. Yes. I thought you meant from his current AAV. I think he's slightly more.
Yes.
I think he's right in that $6 to $6.5 million range.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I meant I could have worded that better. I meant he can't command more than Miller, right? So if Miller's 8, right, you look at Bo Horvat and like you look at it, Miller scored 54 more points in 2 years than Bo Horvat. Right, like that's what you get paid for. And I know Bo Horvat's
totally different players, right?
Got more goals in that time. I think 3 more goals than JT Miller, right? But plays, maybe you'd say that Horvat, some would argue, is a better defensive player, sure. Mm-hmm. But when we're talking big money, and Bo Horvat is the guy. And what the other thing that I found interesting is the interview with Bruce Boudreau, and he talked about how Miller's kind of the leader of that group.
Yes,
right. And
you can tell he's an emotional, just the way he plays and what he wears on his sleeve.
Yeah, like if I'm Vancouver, I want both of them. Like to me, I saw some people say, well, this means they can't afford him. And I don't understand why people think that. As I outlined, the raise to Miller is basically going to be eaten up from the dead cap space they have in buyout. So that goes there. And if Bo Horvat's going to get $1 million raise, maybe even you stretch it to $1.5 million and he gets to $7 million. Well, you know what? So you trade someone. Because the following year, that's when Tyler Myers comes off the books at $6 million, right?
But the following year is also when it's going to be the big jump.
Yeah. So I'm
thinking Vancouver, it's somewhere in the, and I'll have a story to come at some point on this, but the range that people are talking in terms of projections is likely somewhere between $8 and $9 million in jump in the cap.
Oh, it's huge. Huge.
Where that would be for the 2024-25 season.
Yeah. So, and like what the thing about Vancouver is I look at their team and I really think, in the Western Conference, I think the Canucks were the team based on their talent level that underachieved. And if there's a team that I think is capable of a bounce back, it's them.